Okay, welcome to part two of the Gravel Gospel Prelude. So, like I said before, I kind of gave you the breakdown on who I am and why we're here. So this part is kind of this is a breakdown of what we're getting into and how we're gonna get there. I will, as you're watching this, uh, I watch a lot of YouTube, a lot of content creators, and I glean ideas and inspiration from all the different ones. Um, the ones that I really like uh, feels like a conversation. Okay, it doesn't feel like a talking head, and that's my hope. Because it doesn't feel like I'm just sitting here. I mean, if that's what you're into, cool. But I don't want it to feel like that. I want this to feel genuine. These are my thoughts. Okay, so keep that in mind. This is, I said it before, I don't hold degrees in biblical studies. One day I would like to do that because I'm fascinated in the scholastic and the history of it. I think it's really cool. But that's not where we're at. I want to present this. I want to share this with you in a way that I have seen it. So we're going to be all over the place. Um, I'm not one of those that it has to look like this. I think that's what's kind of neat, what's fun about the sporadic nature of what I want to present. So keeping that in mind. Um, if you've held on this long, appreciate you. Um, I'm gonna use language. I'm not gonna use no words. That's not what I mean. But I'm gonna use language and vernacular that I think is appropriate and it's relevant. Um, you'll hear me possibly say use descriptors. Dude's a unit. Talking about King David, and I'm really excited to when we get into David's mighty men. When we get into David dealing with the Philistines, I love the story. They're in a cave. They're getting ready to go to war, right? Or excuse me, they've been on the run. Okay, so him and his dudes, they've been on the run. They're in the middle of a war. So being a military guy, uh, I see it through lenses like that. Okay, so before I get too far into the weeds, and this is what I'm talking about, it's going to be sporadic. So hold on tight. Um, David's in the cave with his dudes, and they're sitting over a fire, and he's talking about talking about things they miss from home. I've been deployed 3 times, so 100% do I understand what that's like. I spent 12 years living overseas, so I understand the context of shooting the breeze and talking about things that you miss back home. Missing Walmart, missing, hey, I miss going to pick a flavor, uh, fast food joint if that's your jam. I miss being able to go to a particular grocery store or a gas station, a QT, a Bucky's, things like that, right? So these guys, they're sitting around the campfire, and they're talking about those things, talking about the things they miss as they've been in conflict. And David comments, he says, I really miss water from this well. It is, I'm going to jack it up and we'll get there, but I kind of want to set this up. And so his knuckleheads, a couple of his dudes, we'll just call them the E4 Mafia. The E4 Mafia don't speak about it. If you need something done during my time and even now, you got the E4 Mafia. These are the guys that if you need something done, but you don't want to know how they got it done, so you're gonna ask. So his guys, they're talking, they're like on it. And these knuckleheads go behind enemy lines to get King David water from that well. And I think it's so cool because here you've got, well, there's something that I'll address as we're going through scripture, as we're going through the Old Testament, New Testament, is being that God is the creator of all things, he is the ultimate teacher, the ultimate mentor, the ultimate friend, because he created those things. He knows how they are. He knows the blueprint. He knows the the ins and outs from the smallest nucleus to the atom. He knows what they are because he made them, right? So he shows us through scripture how to teach. He teaches us those. Christ used parables as an example, as an object lesson to teach a topic. Okay, so here you have teaching how to people, how to be a leader, how to be a human, how to talk to your fellow man. And so David's mighty men, they had been following him so long at this point. He's their king. The kings would go to war physically. They're there. They're there. He's not on the back lines giving commands. No, he's there with them. I mean, you want to talk about teaching how to lead? There you go. And so they're at their fire, and he's talking about this. So his E4 Mafia, I'll just call him the E4 Mafia, and that's what I mean by terminology that you'll hear me use to describe a thing. He's and please don't get me twisted. So when I use certain terminology, I'll call them idiots. These idiots, they're not. Don't look too far into that. I'm just using this as a descriptor. Okay, so these idiots go behind enemy lines to get him water from that well that he missed because they loved and appreciated him so much. They understood what he meant to them. And so they get back, and he's so moved by this. And I'm gonna do a lot of paraphrasing here as we're going through scripture. I'm gonna do it. It's gonna be your footnotes, okay? And he takes the water and he prays, and he realizes that they risked their lives for him. And he says, you know what? I can't take this. In his gratitude for what they did, the sacrifice that they just made, they could have been killed for a milk run. He never asked them to do that, but they wanted to do that. That's what I mean when I say, and so he prayed before the Lord, and he worshipped the Father, and then he poured out. Says, I am so grateful for this, but I cannot drink of this because of what it cost you. That's incredible. That is absolutely amazing. And so these are the things that I want to share that I just find incredible. So that's what we're going to do as we go through Old and New Testament, and periodically throughout, I will drop those little nuggets. Hey, pay attention to this because this is going to come into play later. I mentioned earlier in part one, foreshadowing. Okay. I also mentioned that the huge comic book guy, and don't look. I've read a decent amount, but by no means am I an expert. Okay, so with that being said, writer that I really, really like, Jason Aaron's, Donnie Cates, Hickman. Hickman's run of the Fantastic Four, absolutely incredible read. But I use that very specific example. Hickman, he'll plant little seeds throughout. Good storytelling, right? And you'll see something that happens and go, why did he do this? This is weird. There's the setup. The payoff comes later. So in this context, in the context of the Old and New Testament, I'm going to mention, hey, here's the set. Here's a seed. Pay attention to this. When you're reading, pay attention to what's going on. When you see different references, and a point just escaped me, but either way, that's the vision for this. I have no idea how many videos this will go. There might be some shorts in here, because if I'm going to cover a particular story, it's like, okay, this is like maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes. I'm going to lump some together, so it's going to be a little difficult, but to kind of follow. But I will have in the subjects, hey, this is what we're covering, this is the topic we're going to cover, and so on and so forth. So yeah. So ride with me as we travel the gravel gospel. Um, Again, it's I want to showcase that throughout hardship, throughout trials and tribulations, that God's grace is still sovereign. And it's the coolest stinking thing to watch. And it's easier for us as readers. We've been, these are events that happened thousands of years ago, right? So it's easier for the reader to remove themselves from the situation and go, okay, well that happened then. And you would be correct in to say that happened then, but I also want to showcase that being that God is all time, he is omnipresent, he's everywhere at once. He is every when, he is all knowing. So these moments are still relevant to today. So I don't want to get that twisted. Another thing that I want to point out, and I see this happen a lot. It's very, very common. It's understandable as readers, as readers in the United States, or pick a location. Right, culturally, it's understandable to want to read something through the lens of the year 2025, or through the lens of the culture that you're currently in, whatever that culture looks like, be it a military culture, be it a civilian culture, be it a blue collar, a white collar, whatever that culture looks like. It's very easy to read it through that lens and then try to apply, well, they're doing this thing, but you're thinking 2025, not 135 AD, or not 437 BC. So it's very easy to fall into that. With that being said, for those that are seasoned Christians that have been studying scripture for a really long time, okay, this is kind of for them. You guys, for the most part, know this stuff, but for my newer readers, when you're reading scripture, something very, very important to note, to read it, to understand, read it, the language that was being used. So what language were they speaking at the time? Be it Hebrew, be it Aramaic, New Testament, are they speaking Greek? And that'll come into play later when we get into the New Testament, when we get into Paul's letters. It's important to note who he is writing to, which is why he's going to use language that he's using, why he's going to say certain things the way that he's doing, because it's understanding the reader. Okay, so you got the language, the culture. What is the culture of that location that he's speaking to? The time frame. Okay, what was happening in that time? So then you got the world stage of that time. So those are different things that you want to keep in mind when you are reading this. So I'd encourage you, as I tell these stories, as I go through these, I would encourage you to go back after I've said this and then read it for yourself. Check it. Hey, okay, I'm gonna give you the scripture reference. I'm gonna give you the chapter and verse. Go back and then read that. And then if you're reading through that, keeping that in mind, it'll make a little bit more sense. Oh, okay. Now, also understanding that, I've been to two of the deployments that I've been into. I've been to the Middle East. I've been to that part of the world. So understanding that culture, and even then culture changes. So keep those things in mind. But as I'm telling these stories, as I'm giving the footnotes, the cliff notes, I also fall prey to that, looking at it through a 2025 lens. So fully understand that, recognize it. As I'm doing this as I perceive it. Okay, so keep that in mind, and then I think we'll have a lot of fun. I do want to look at this lighthearted. Going back to David in the cave with his E4 Mafia. Okay, it's lighthearted. Keep that in mind. But I think it's important. It's extremely important. And there's some moments throughout that you can't really do it with a light heart. And that's understandable because of the nature of it, right? The nature of what is actually happening. But so, with all that being said, that's kind of our vision, what we're going to do. Episode 1. So this is Prelude part 2. Episode 1, we'll start. What we'll do is we'll start with the creation. So we're going to start in Genesis. The next couple episodes, we'll do it. We'll break it up based on book. I'm going to do my best to do it chronologically, and I'll give you the description. It'll be the book, a chapter, and verses we're going to cover. Okay, so it gives you a baseline. So okay, I know we're here. Cool. So episode 1 is going to be creation, going up to. I'll figure it out from there. I've got on the back end. I've got a list of titles on what we're gonna call it. But you can rest assured we're gonna start with creation, and then go from there. So appreciate your time, and I'm Bionic Leg. Welcome to the Grapple Gospel.